A reading from Whispers from Eternity, Cosmic Salutation. O Spirit, I bow to Thee in front of me, behind me, on the left and on the right. I bow to Thee, above and beneath. I bow to Thee, all around me. I bow to Thee, within and without. I bow to Thee everywhere, for Thou art everywhere. Good morning, great souls. So good to be with you all. Still just really appreciating having everyone's presence in the temple. It's just such a blessing and such a gift. I love that Whispers and our affirmation today, and one of the things I enjoy as I prepare for Sunday service when I have and it's a great privilege to give a talk and reflect deeply on it. I was kind of chuckling yesterday at all the talks within me that never happen when I reflect on it. I thought, well, maybe I'll say that. I could say that. But it's really a practice I find each time in teaching, and Lakshmi, that was so beautiful, that solo. I felt that experience of expansion and surrender and allowing, right? Allowing the grace to flow through. I was listening to a documentary on Pavarotti, great singer, opera singer, and one of the interviews they asked him, do you always know that you'll hit that note before you sing it? He laughed and said, no. And I was so surprised, he was so accomplished, but that he would say, you do it, but you don't know that you'll do it, right? So there's certain things that really feel like that. And I was thinking about, this teaching, esoteric, exoteric. I looked it up, what is that again? And it says it already, but exoteric are the teachings, right? What's stated. And esoteric is this divine understanding of the teachings and what is required to have that. And Swami says at the end of the reading, a willingness to dive more deeply with another way of knowing, which is inner communion. And there's so much sacred mystery in that. And sometimes there can be, certainly for me, I've had this, where the conscious mind will battle because it wants to prove it, right? It wants to prove everything before I do it. It wants to know I can hit that note before I try. And if I don't know, it's hard. I will speak myself to say, wow, it might not happen. Yeah, it might not happen. Yudhishthira, he and I, some of you know, lead the Ananda School here, our school of the Bay Area School of Yoga and Meditation. And one of the things we offer is yoga teacher training. So he and I are in the midst of many meetings, and there's many meetings within the Sangha, getting everything ready. And as you get closer, there's, it's a very big program. As is Raja Yoga coming up. So lots of big programs coming up. And we trade off who would like to begin our meeting with a prayer. This happens in every meeting in Ananda. So Yudhishthira and I were meeting, and he started the prayer, and then he said the thought that came in was, Divine Mother, save us. And, it's just great, because part of that is the realization of our own limitation. I'll step toward this, I'll say yes to it, I'll open up for it, but there's a lot I don't know in the doing of it. And so much of it is one moment at a time, one breath at a time. And the conscious mind is centered in the ego. So it has difficulty with that. It has difficulty with surrendering it. And one of the things I appreciate in the teachings of yoga, our philosophy, is what Swami refers to here, Sankhya. So Sankhya Yoga, Master pointed out that what's required is reaching a point in our development where we recognize that statement, God cannot be proved. Right? I've gone as far as I can go in my understanding. I've gone as far as I can go in my expansion. I've tried everything there is to try. And it may not, obviously it wouldn't be in one lifetime, but you have within yourself that sense, I can't get there. I can't get there in the way that the world is offering us to get there, to happiness. I love what Chidambar said about Ananda means joy, and that's the expression of God, right? So there's a certain point in our journey where we know we sense what's possible, but we can't get there. So how do I get there? And the journey of spiritual awakening happens inside, right? Yogananda said there are many paths to truth. And in Patanjali's teaching about the stages of awakening, they happen whatever path you're on, but it happens within. And it's one of the reasons in Ananda we don't proselytize. We don't go out and try and convince people. I was reflecting on a moment in my early 20s, a moment of inner awakening, where I just began to have this experience, and it's often reminded me of a story Shanti has shared of a profound awakening she had with divine love, where you're just having it. And there it is. It's amazing to have this experience. We all have this has been my experience of everyone I've spoken to, everyone who comes to Ananda. I love to hear, how did you get here? And I love to hear the mystery, and I love to hear the conscious mind reach the limit of explanation. And I don't know why. I drove past here for years and years and years. I don't know why. One day I came. One day I decided it was the day. And it wasn't the conscious mind that decided. It just isn't. If we stay, right, it's not the conscious mind that stays. It's something else. Something else within us is awakened and seeking and hungry and thirsty. So I had an experience of divine joy that was wonderful and amazing and overwhelming, and in the midst of it, I just kept feeling like God is real. And I had believed in God before, but I was in my early 20s in a professional job. We weren't talking about God every day. It was good work. It was in the realm of social work, so it was very good work. But I kept encountering all the things that people were talking about that I didn't know how to line up with, because I just felt like I wanted to say to everybody, God is real, can you believe it? And in our affirmation today, to feel ourselves in the brooks, to feel ourselves in the leaves, I was feeling that, and I was thinking of Bharat's program. He's coming in the fall. He gives these amazing programs that make the divine so accessible for everyone. And what Swami says, I was reading some expanded commentary on this reading that Swamiji gave, and he said, again, ultimately it's about humility and devotion. There's the bridge we need to cross. And what I love that Bharat offers in his trainings and his workshops, he embodies it for one thing. So you're just with him, and how could you not? Every time I see him look up and talk about the sky, I feel what he's feeling, right? He lives in that inner communion and how it's expressed in nature. And nature is so accessible, for so many. But what's interesting is that, so the path of awakening, it's not a path of conquering, right? So, not everyone who experiences nature feels like, oh, I want to flow with nature and what it has to offer and how can I work cooperatively with this reality. Nope, that's not. Some say, this is great, how can I control it? Oh, how can I take charge of it? How can I master it? And so that's the relationship. And there's a story that Yogananda told, I believe he was in Mexico, and he was just looking out at this expansive view, and there were all these canals, irrigation, as I recall the story, and he was marveling at the beauty, and he was marveling at, what can be manifested in this realm, and it was inner communion for him, and he kind of had this, and the man next to him said, right, because it was just the two of them, I guess, but the man next to him was seeing how man had conquered that view. Right? Look what man has done. There's this beautiful song that Swamiji wrote about that, right? And the wonders, right, that man creates, and they don't last, but they seem so impressive. And that's Shankya. So we have to go through that time where we reach our own limits, and then we begin to recognize, within us our own soul. So these are the teachings that our soul progressively awakens and begins to guide us. And part of that journey, I would say I'm still in that journey, is surrendering the conscious mind to what I feel guided to do, and I don't navigate that on my own. I don't. So when Swamiji said, do we, someone asked him famously, do we all need a guru? Does everyone? No, not necessarily. If you don't think you do, you don't. But in the spiritual life, it's so, as we awaken, it becomes more and more refined and subtle, and you're trying to understand things that we can easily get wrong. So another thing I was thinking of is a song that Swamiji wrote, a very Tandava. I've heard him sing this song, and I just love it. I've heard others sing it too, but about Jenny, right? It's a Jenny, like all the signs that say, oh, Jenny loves me, because this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And so how easy it is, and if I stay in my conscious mind, I'm exposed to God. God's everywhere and everything, but how am I relating to what I'm being offered? Am I figuring it out? Do I have it figured out? So in Krishna in the Gita, where he says, I am in everything, right? But everything doesn't contain me. So I was again looking at Swamiji's commentary on that, and basically how we get it wrong. We can have metaphysical experiences, divine experiences, and get puffed up and think, oh, I know, I don't really need guidance. I'm good. So that's usually a sign of caution, be careful. Swamiji, who was so incredibly guided by divine understanding and intuition, he gives some lovely talks in Treasures about intuition and his own journey. And one of the things he says is he's cautious. And so even when he's crystal clear, even when he identifies 3 ways we can trust and come to discern, is this intuition, calmness, clarity, or joy? So we can look for that, and that will be a sign that, oh, okay, that's an indication it's intuition. But even when we have that, don't charge ahead. Don't assume, okay, I'm good, I feel calm about this. So this journey of how do we do it? And to me, I was also reflecting on the experiences, not just my own experiences, but watching others and how they navigate it. And I feel that so much of the blessing of satsang and being together is we help each other in that way. And Master said, second to a guru is to have a spiritual family, to have a place that we can go, those who've gone before us, those who are walking alongside us, right? Those who are, looks like following, who knows? It looks like it, but okay for today. But tomorrow they might be ahead and guiding us. And there's a beautiful story when Master met his guru. The Sri Yukteswar said, if I fall, right, will you put my head on your lap and bring me back? The guru, fully self-realized. But there's the message. Because the conscious mind likes to measure, it likes to, oh, I'm here, you're there, oh, you're there, I'm here. So it's evaluating what it can't. We cannot evaluate that. It's enough to be here. It's enough to be here. I love that Swamiji said, in your spiritual life, focus on direction. Don't worry so much about how close you are to the end. I've always been comforted by, I've heard this also many times, Jyotish and Devi and Shanti and Asha talking about, really, and if the life is 24 hours, the journey of awakening, spiritual awakening, we're right at the end. I've heard it 3 minutes, 3 seconds, pretty close is the point, pretty close. To come and want to know more is already an indication of how far we've progressed. And so, to me, it's a daily practice of rising up, claiming wherever I'm standing, and this idea of expansion. Right? So I really appreciate Swamiji showing us the difference in how it feels. That when the conscious mind is expanding, it's stretched, like I'm just overstretched. And I can barely do whatever, and I get thinner, like that, the flower, right? Thinner, 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 thinner. And when we're stepping towards something large, there's, for me, Yudhishthira saying, Divine Mother, save us, right? Because the conscious mind is looking ahead and going, I have no idea how this is going to happen. Do you think you'll hit that note? I don't know. I don't have very much confidence in that. So then don't try to have confidence in that. That's not what will get you there. What will get you there is God, right? If this is meant to be. So there's a story that Swamiji, I've heard others tell, that there was an event and no one came, right? Or very little. Either no one came or very little. And then someone in the group said to Swamiji, well, perhaps Divine Mother didn't want that. He said, no. That is not the way out. You can't not promote something, because he knew it hadn't been promoted properly. So people hadn't done their part. And he said, no, that's not the way to approach it. We need to have put out every ounce of energy as if it will happen, as if I will hit that note, with confidence, right? To a certain amount, you do your best, and then say, and then it's in Divine Mother's hands, right? Then, okay, what will happen will happen. And how to trust that. And to me, again, I need help with that. I need help with discerning, what do you think's happening? What's your sense of what might be unfolding? And I'm so grateful for my divine friends who I can go to and share something with and get, in essence, their take on it. And what I find within Ananda, my deep spiritual friends, they don't answer from the conscious mind, right? They hear my question and they don't solve it. I was in a meeting, not in Ananda, a different kind of meeting, and there's a beautiful young woman who was 12 steps related, for those who know about 12 steps, and she was new to this program and trying to figure it out, and she was saying how she grew up in a family where her mother just freely gave advice and felt it was her role to give her advice. So, and elders in the family just felt that was, she didn't like it, but she was very used to it. So now she's in a group where people aren't giving advice. It's spiritually based, and they're offering things and saying, yeah, you need to explore it and listen. Is it right for you? And so she was saying, it was just very sweet. She said, I keep thinking, why isn't anyone telling me what to do? Why won't someone tell me what to do? And then she said, but I don't really like being told what to do. Right? So I want to find my own way. And so it's such an art. Again, Swami's he was asked the question, what's your favorite yoga posture? That which allows you to stand on your own 2 feet. So, and he said many times how Master did not articulate the teachings in great detail and tell the disciples what to do. Instead, there's a story, I think it might be in the New Path, where Swamiji, he had a moment, he was, I think, out at 29 Palms. There's Master, okay, I'm going to ask a question. And Master looked at him and put his hands up to do a technique. He didn't answer. And Swamiji's like, oh, okay, go within, go within. And there's many stories of how Swami, when working with students, when working with others, you see this in the book of letters that we have on how he counseled. Not the same to every person. Some people, very specific, this is what I recommend. Others, nothing. There's a devotee who I had heard from a close friend of hers, and then somewhere else I was hearing this story where she asked many times for Swamiji to speak with her, and he wouldn't. And she lived at the village. So he met with all these people. And then, periodically she'd send a note, and I believe it was to Asha that he had said. But anyways, there were a few people who understood this, and she herself came to understand this, that he said she's relying too much on my guidance. She's not doing her work. She needs to do her work. She needs to do that inner work that will awaken her own relationship with these teachings, with the gurus, and she will then know. So his role, always one to draw forth what's within us already. That's the role of the gurus. Right? They draw it out of us. They awaken it within us. And if they perceive that we're trying to, because it can look so beautiful and devotional, oh, guide me. Right? No, not if it's not good for you. Right? They won't. And so these are the things that stood out to me today. I'll circle back a little bit to expansion. Today we're having a discipleship ceremony, which is always so beautiful, inspiring to me, to be with others as they take this very deep personal vow to the path, that they come to an understanding, this is their guru, this is their path. And individually, only individuals can discern that. It isn't something that is the conscious mind can decide. So it's a great moment, courageous moment I will, this is what I choose. And built within it, the whole journey of it and the way that Ananda holds it is an understanding of expansion. That this relationship, while very, very personal, there's a way in which we're being called to share the blessings that we receive in having this relationship. So Swamiji has said that the nature of joy is to share itself. And everything within Ananda, every vow we take, there's a component in which we move beyond the personal and we open up to, and how can this be a blessing for others? We ultimately are practicing how to be a channel, however that shows up, maybe singing, maybe speaking, maybe quietly, sweeping. There's just so many ways. It's mostly being. I love when Asha talks about the pilgrim vow, because you can't tell it all on the outside. So I think that sometimes is the most beautiful way to serve, where no one knows, and to practice that, right? God knows. And so there you are with the divine and doing your best. The other thing I'll say in my experience with inner expansion is there's a buoyancy to that, which is very, very different than I'm overstretched. So I can feel overstretched with projects, with whatever, but as soon as I am, I recognize I'm in the wrong place, that I need to move out of the conscious mind, which somehow took on the project. It just somehow decided, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. So I need to come back within, find a way through our tools, our practices. We often say inward and upward, bringing our awareness here. And then as that inner expansion happens, there is a grace sustaining us. I was reminded of a student who came, she's moved away now, but she showed up at the yoga studio, this is a few years ago, and she had taken yoga teacher training at the Expanding Light, and appeared to come for yoga class that I was teaching that day. Oh, great, nice to have you. And then she couldn't help but tell me the story of what was happening for her. And she said, Babaji has come into my life, and I don't even really know what Babaji is. And I took this training, and it was so challenging and demanding, which it is. And so she decided at the end of it, she put away her Raja Yoga book, she put away her manual. Okay, I'm taking a break, that's enough. And then, and even what led her to the Expanding Light, on her phone, she kept getting images of people going to Babaji's cave. She's like, who are these people? Where are they going? And it kept happening. She can't explain it. I can't explain it. Conscious mind can't explain it. So after she got back from the Expanding Light, it started happening again. On her phone, she'd be going to do something, and there are these people traveling to Babaji's cave. She's like, who is Babaji? When she went to the Expanding Light, she saw him. She's like, oh, that's the person who keeps coming up on my phone. What's this about? Anyway, she came to me in a place of surrender, a little bit exasperated, like, I don't really want to be here. And her conscious mind didn't. She said, I was actually looking forward to a break, but now here I am. Can I help you? I said, sure. I'd love to have your help. You just got trained as a yoga teacher. Fantastic. Sure, you could help me set up. That'd be lovely. I think by the end of that first class, she's like, do you need any teachers? I go, sure, that'd be great. And she helped out a lot, right? She really did. And it was a beautiful, amazing thing to see how, but also it can, I guess what I want to say, expansion isn't comfortable. That's my point of that story. That each time I've been called to my next level of expansion, I've been around others in that place of expansion, it's hard because the conscious mind doesn't know what's happening. And oftentimes it's feeling like, well, where am I going? Where am I going? It can't be answered on a conscious level. But over time, the deepening of this inner relationship and having a supportive system and tools, the tools of yoga are extraordinary. They help us. They help us, and they keep pointing the way. That's great. You've taken your next step. How will you expand with that? How can you share with that? How can you move beyond your own life? And it looks different for every one of us. We can expand being in a cave. Most of us are active in life in some way. But these are all the different various things that were standing out to me in the reading today, our affirmation, the music, the coming together, this very personal journey of awakening and raising our consciousness, inviting the grace of God, the gurus to guide us, and calling upon divine friends and teachers to help us. So great to be with you, great souls.
Tara's brave hill so quiet, the day I came there, not a green leaf stirred on the air, not a bird did proclaim ancient grandeur and fame, only ruins, faint memories declare. I marvel to think, how can greatness e'er die? How can song disperse in the sky? How can hopes and dreams fade? How the warrior's sharp blade become dust? Was victory alive? I stood there and pondered the great deeds of men's past, how like clouds in the sunset no glory can last. Even we, as we labor to achieve some bright end, must accept after glory that the night will descend. I've dreamed a broad rainbow over thicket and thorn, over crags that call tarry, your hopes are forlorn. All too oft in my dreaming, courage turned to despair, till I learned that success is but the courage to dare. As I gazed and thought sadly of Tara's demise, suddenly I saw her walls rise, saw her long regal halls, heard her people's brave calls, as though time had doffed a disguise. And I knew in that moment the deeds that men do never die, each victory is true. Every effort we spend gives more strength in the end, till our gladness in lives ever new. Every effort we spend gives more strength in the end, till our gladness in lives ever new.